Well, thank you so much for being here, Mika. We were just
Thank
talking
you.
before we started recording. I've gotten to know you through Substack, of course, the notes and the comments and all of that. It's always fun to meet face to face like this.
I know, it's really fun. Lovely to meet you like this in this virtual way.
Yeah, I was trying to remember how we actually met. I've been doing your Find Your Tribe, which we'll get into a little bit later, but I think you had linked to one of my posts, and that's how I met you. And I know you also know Christy, and we have like a lot of people in common. But was that the
Yes,
connection?
I think so. And I know that there's lots of people who I, so when people follow me, I like to go onto their profile and just have a little nosy around and like some notes, sometimes if I can. And I probably came across your work and I was like, oh my goodness, people need to, see this, people need to read this. And it probably went from there. So yeah, lovely to connect this way.
You're so kind, and people need to connect and know what you're doing too. I just love you're like a Substack guru, like goddess, and I'm just very, very excited people to know what's going on. So, big question, but in your own words, I would love for you to tell everyone just who you are and like a little bit or as much as you want about sort of your story up until this moment in time, on Substack and beyond, just to like who is Mika?
Sure. So I write Musings by Mika on Substack, and I started here about I think April 2023, right? Because you would have looked back. And I basically started that at a time where it was a huge transition in my life. I had just decided to put in my notice at work. And that alone is a story in itself. The short story is basically there were little breadcrumbs that led to the moment where I felt really, really strongly that I needed to make space for something new, which meant I needed to quit my job. And it wasn't one of those things where it was like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. I'm going to quit my job. Yahoo. It was more like, I've got to do this thing. I do not want to do this thing because not knowing what's on the other end felt very uncomfortable for me. I cried when I told the kids. It just felt like a calling I needed to answer, but I didn't know why. And so that was beginning of April. And then so I thought, I guess I came across something. I think a lot of at that time people were transitioning over to Substack. Um, and so I was getting a few newsletters from them. And when I had a little poke around, I was like, this place seems amazing. I could potentially build a community because I'm all about community building. I could potentially write. I love writing. And I kind of started there. And I document my whole journey so people can go back to see how it all unfolded. But I was a corporate in-house graphic designer prior to that. I loved my job, great perks, great workmates, potential to grow. And then I basically knew within my heart that I needed to go a different path. Um, and then um, and then about a few weeks later, after I put my resignation in, we got the news that my mum got cancer. And then everything sort of flipped on its head. And she's doing great now, by the way. Yeah, she's
Good.
just got
Oh,
given the all clear with the
oh,
latest test. So she's doing great. So sorry
oh,
to just sort of
no, congratulations.
put people,
Yes, yes, absolutely.
sorry, trigger warning, sorry. But so we got that news. And what was interesting about the timing was that in New Zealand, you give 4 weeks notice when you decide to quit your job. I decided to give 5 weeks notice. And because she was in private healthcare, she was able to get her operation done quite quickly. So if I had just done my 4 weeks notice, I would have been able to, I would have been finished work, all clear, and be there for the operation. Um, I decided to just take the last week off of work and decide to be with her. And, there were some complications with her operation and I had to be there longer. So I don't know, the timing was quite amazing for me to be in a position where I could just be there for her. And she lives about an hour plane ride away. And so just continually go back and see her, which I've been doing over the last year, has been a real gift. And I guess as I was thinking about the conversation that we were going to have today, in terms of like making space for something new. I guess Substack was something that has been something new in my life, and I've really, really enjoyed. And I didn't know that I would enjoy it this much when I started, for sure, 100%.
Love that. Well, again, I'm so happy your mom is doing much better and for her health and just sending good vibes for just,
Thank you.
all of the journey. I know that remission and all of that is a big thing for the next couple of years. So just really so happy to hear that.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, one of my questions in there, I want to go into the Substack journey and that timing and all. Before that, even like situate further. So I know you're in New Zealand, your mom lives about an hour away. You mentioned some kids. I'd love to give everyone, and also myself, just a few background details on like just like life in the world and sort of what your life's like in New Zealand.
Yes, so we have 4 children that I would say they're big kids.
I've read that, yeah.
Yeah. So we have two with us living at home. One's at university, one's at sort of like high school age, but she's doing vocational studies. We have another who's off and married as well, and another who's overseas. And so yeah, it's definitely a transitional time for me as well, in terms of the kids don't need me as much, although I feel like I probably put myself in there to be needed. It's been it's it's a constant reminding myself that I can spend more time on myself, which is interesting because I would have thought that as the kids get older, you naturally would make space. But I think I haven't given myself that permission as much. Um, and so that's been a journey as well, which has been quite nice. It's been quite nice to kind of slowly go, no, you can do this, you can explore a bit, because I think a lot of times when you've been so I've been a mum for 24 years, almost 24 years. That's a long time to give everything to somebody else. And so to kind of untangle that a little bit, you're still going to be part of their lives, obviously, but to untangle that and sort of revisit that person that you used to be, although you're never going to be the same person, but to kind of find out who is this version of yourself without that huge part, because that, you're used to just giving everything. And so that's been an interesting journey, and something that I might explore later in my writing, because I do have a huge soft spot in my heart for women who have given so much of their life and then sort of woken up and go, oh my goodness, who am I? What do I want to do? What are my passions? I've kind of not nurtured them so much during that time, and to kind of rediscover and awaken that. So I think having an outlet like Substack is a really nice way to kind of ease into those sort of creative juices of writing, or connecting with other people in similar situations. So it's been really nice. I've seen a lot of lovely sort of mum bloggers, if you like, on Substack. So I think it's nice to have that kind of community there, and also a lot of women doing the midlife thing, figuring out themselves as well. So there's a space for everybody here. Fiction writers, people going through transitions. So it's like there's something for everybody here, which is so lovely.
Yeah. Oh, that's so well said. I also love that idea of you did so beautifully the idea of the untangling as a mother and just as a woman in a family and in society. I there's that fact that like babies don't recognize that they are separate entities of their mothers for like months. And that's I think it speaks so much to bond. And then they're like out in the world and they're married and doing all
It's
the things. And so to be figuring out who you are not outside of that because you're still a mother, of course, but not in that same like day-to-day caretaking. And then now you're not in that same day-to-day office life where I think you were in that job for like a decade, right? As a graphic
Yes,
designer.
9 years. 9 years.
So to be looking at like that word space you keep using, I think is such a good word. Simple, but like rich of like what's like to have the space in Substack and in your life is a question that we like get to keep pondering and calling attention to, which you said are again so
Yeah.
good. I'd love to
I
go.
think,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go. Please go.
oh, sorry, I was going to just say that I think, I don't know about other people, but I certainly got into a position where when you have to take care of this little human being, you're kind of like, okay, my needs kind of go second because you need to keep them alive. And in work situations, you're like, I need to meet this deadline because we need to get paid. And so I think if you're not careful, you can kind of forget or hibernate that part of yourself that is like, okay, so what do I want? What do I need? And there's a lot of survival that you go through. And so I think it's like giving people permission to be like, what do I want? What do I need? How do I want to show up on Substack instead of, reading things that, oh, I need to do it this way, I need to do it that way. It's like, what feels good to me? I think that's been quite fun in this sort of Substack journey, is just sort of going, okay, what sits right for me? Okay, I'm going to do this way. It's not conventional, but that's okay. I'm going to do it because it sits right for me. And I think allowing that sort of flourishing has been very, very rewarding and lovely, and something I definitely advocate a lot for on here.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love the language of like the forgetting and the hibernating of our own needs. And now it's like you're kind of like viscerally excavating them again and sort of letting yourself be who you are now, not who you were 24 years ago, and re-examining that. And in the like beginning of that journey, I'm curious, like you mentioned the breadcrumbs of leaving your job and sort of like the calling, which I'm reading a book called Callings right now that I love by Greg Lavoie. And like tell me about that a little bit and sort of that like
Yeah.
you mentioned like crying, telling the kids, and it's being a very I love how you talk about the job leaving process being like emotional, because I think that in movies and books very glamorized and like I just quit the job and like in
No,
right?
it
Like in
wasn't for me.
yeah, and like in Devil Wears Prada, there's that scene with Anne Hathaway where she throws her phone in the fountain, and I'm like, that
Yes.
sounds great, but that's not really what happens. So, what were those breadcrumbs that like? Do you remember the first moment when you thought like, I don't want to do this?
Yes. I feel like earlier that year. So I guess I was making, like, I subconsciously, I don't know what was happening, but I was making room for receiving, I guess. Um like, I guess making room to like hear myself, perhaps, is what it was. I was doing a lot of journaling. I was meditating. I was just allowing a little bit of space to hear myself. And when you do that, you get answers. And I'm very good at saying, that's too scary. So I did need those breadcrumbs. I did need little things like listen to yourself a bit more. Like, that was probably one of the breadcrumbs, was you need to listen to yourself more, trust yourself more. Um, and I think that was the sort of like the opening that was needed to kind of be like, okay, trust yourself. And that sort of went on for a few months. You need to listen to yourself more. And then when I finally got this sort of answer that I needed to make, it was like, you need to make space for something new. And I'm like, does that mean I need to quit my job? And it's like, yes. And it kind of even gave the time frame. I even was like, okay, so when would it be? And it was kind of like, you need to leave in May. And I was like, oh my goodness, so it was very, very fast, because I think if I didn't tune into myself, I would have just been like, oh, I mean, to be honest, I think I even got some impressions that I needed to perhaps move on. And I thought, oh, something else is going to pop up that's going to be perfect. I thought I was going to move into a different job. I didn't know I was going to quit. So I was just getting these little clues to say, I think it's time to do a little shift. But I thought into something else. And I was kind of excited, like, I wonder what new job is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. I think what made it so difficult, and what isn't sort of glamorized and, uh, in all the books and everything, was, I think for me, it was like I had attached so much of my worth to earning money. And who am I without a job? I've been working since I was 14. You're an independent person. You can take care of yourself. So if I don't have this job, what am I? Am I a good citizen to, to be in this world without a job and everything, without earning money and contributing to the family? I had a break for over a decade to raise the kids, and you can tell yourself, oh, you're raising your kids or you're doing something, but I didn't have a because. Like I just knew I needed to finish my job, but I didn't know why I needed to finish my job. So it was quite hard to transition out of that. I had to do a lot of work on money and worth and career and worth and things like that. I think I consumed a lot of information about the hustling. I think I was definitely in that lane for a little, can I do a side hustle? Can I do something else? It was always like consuming like material that was to do with like get ahead, make money. And I think over the last year, as I've been out of that corporate world, I'm kind of am opening up a different world of like um it's more soft, it's more gentle, and um, that you don't need to figure out everything and need to know all the answers, maybe leaning into what makes you happy and what makes sense for you and your family and your lifestyle. Like, try that instead of just like feeling like not enough unless I have this thing. So it's been a journey. Like the worth and the money is was very unexpected, and I'm still kind of working on that now, just because I really want to have a healthy sense with that, like not a like a desperation kind of thing, you know?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, there's so much, I mean, nuance there in the deep introspection that you went into and that like almost conversation with yourself or like a different force of like, okay, when am I gonna leave? Oh, May? Like another job? Like, nope. And just sort of I love what you said about if you listen, like you'll get those answers. And sounds like a lot of the clues for you like came from inside. And I think a lot
Mhm.
of people, think about big transitions, having like big shifts in the external world, like started to hate my boss or I hated the work, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it's not like that. And that's in some ways easier. You can point to, okay, I should leave because of this, I can leave because of that. And sometimes it's not that
Mm,
cut and dry. And yeah, I so hear you with money and worth and comparison, especially as women in society and the doing it all. So yeah, I really
yeah. And just, making your parents proud, just be like, I'm climbing a ladder to something,
yeah,
because I think there's a lot of security around money. So if you don't have money coming in,
yes.
where's the security in that, especially as women,
Mhm.
So it was a lot to
Yeah.
work through. Hmm.
I'm curious about like, of course there's expectations and pride and like what was so hard about telling your kids about the shift?
I think because I was scared, like I really didn't know what was happening and I really didn't want to do the thing. And I think I just cried because I was scared. I was really scared of the unknown. Like, why do I have to do this thing? It feels so uncomfortable. And so that's probably why I cried so much. Thankfully, we were in a position where a lot of my pay, we're going through extra things. And so we are very budget orientated. And so we just did a lot of culling back. And so because after I got the answer that like, oh, I think I need to leave my job, that night I didn't fall asleep because I was like, how are we going to do this financially? I don't know if we can do this. I don't think we can. And then my husband's asleep next to me and I just popped open my laptop and I started crunching the numbers and saw that it was possible by doing a few, retrenching and getting some other work in. I do a bit of freelance, and I was really surprised that it was possible. And so I went to bed. But at the time of sort of making that decision, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. But sometimes it's like you do a bit of, it. I had ignored the sort of nudgings before, like maybe you could put your job into a side hustle. But I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to make changes in our life. So there were little sort of hints, but I was just like, no, 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 until it was like a big kind of, this is what's going to be happening. So,
And like, yeah, I love that idea of bringing in the logic of like, it's impossible. Well, is it actually impossible? Like,
yeah.
let's look at the spreadsheet. I love to pull it out and like actually have evidence. Like, as a coach, obviously to my clients, if I can't do it, I'm like, is that actually true that you can't do it? Like, is it like factually true? And that kind of evidence helps me a lot emotionally. And then yeah, like you're at this place where you're like, I want to be uncomfortable. I don't think I can do it, but also I think I have to.
Yes.
And that feels,
Crazy. I
yeah,
think I think change is a huge thing. You don't want to change because that's uncomfortable. I think stepping outside of your comfort zone is uncomfortable. That's a big one for me, and I know that that's if people come to my publication, it's kind of like I talk about sort of stepping into your discomfort a little bit, being okay with being a beginner again, being okay with, because 9 years in a job, I got very comfortable,
yeah,
and gosh, it was so uncomfortable. Yeah. And I think that's why with the Substack, I do talk about my journey so openly
yeah,
because I do I do fear change. I feel like I need to do it right. I think perfect. Um, and so I kind of just want to be like, I know what it's like to feel like this is uncomfortable and that you don't know what you're doing. I've been there. I know what that feels like. And just to sort of have someone else mirror that to them, because I've definitely felt there's decades of me not wanting to be uncomfortable, not wanting to put myself out there. I mean, part of the reason I said yes to this is because I'm like, I need to push myself to do things that are uncomfortable, that I wouldn't normally say yes to. Like I wouldn't put myself out there and be like, I'm gonna interview somebody, blah blah blah. It's like sometimes things need to land on your in your lap, and you need to say, "This is scary, but I'm gonna do it." And then from there, you realize that's not so scary. I can do that, and you get confidence. Like also, the world isn't going to fall apart. I think sometimes we think in our head like it's so big, so scary. I'm not going to put myself out there to do this thing, like, be on camera and talk to someone on the fly can be very scary and uncomfortable. And so why would you purposely put yourself out there to do that? So sometimes it is saying yes to some things if you're not quite ready to be the one to just do the thing. But then as you say yes to things, new opportunities arise and you realize that it's like, I didn't die. I'm okay.
yeah, I'm still
It
alive.
was fun.
I didn't sink into the abyss. No, I love that. And
Exactly.
I'm very
Yeah,
glad
yeah,
you
yeah.
said yes. And I hope that it's been worth the risk so far.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it's been great.
Good. Yeah, no, I love that. I feel like, yeah, the pushing past the discomfort, the going into the unknown before you know what it is yet, it's been a big part of your journey, and bringing it back from Substack too. You leave your job, your mom gets sick, you get to take care of her and be with her. And that was one of my questions, kind of. You mentioned that gap between like when you first got on in April, which I agree. Like spring was a very hot time. But there were a lot of new publications last. I was there in that spring too. Like, let's go in. So you leave, your mom gets sick, you're with her. And then you publish your second essay in like October, November. And you talk about your work journey and that absence. And now you're back in the waters. And from the get go, you're talking about your numbers and growth. And you're like, here's what I've learned so far. And that kind of like beginner's attitude felt like a big part of your authenticity as a writer.
Hmm. Yeah. I so I think okay, so I started in April,
Hmm.
did nothing till October, as you said.
Yeah.
And then a lot of things happened in November. So October, my mum's starting to feel better. So things are slowing down. I'm not needing to go up as often. November was a real interesting time. I was just reading over my very first Substack diary entry, which is in there was one when I started it, but I guess my second, like it's called the Resurrection, right?
Love
And during that month of November was when I was like, I think I was reading The Artist's Way. I think I was looking inward again. And I was like, I love writing. I just love connecting with people. I love understanding how I think through my writing. Um, and I did a lot of things. I was doing a lot of writing again. I took Instagram off my phone.
Love
So
it.
that
Yeah.
allowed space, you know, like the noise, the outside noise. I just wanted to turn it off. And I just started writing for myself every single day. And then I knew I was like, you need to, not that you need to, but it was like, let's give this a proper go. You want to write, let's give it a proper go. And I basically committed to myself that I was going to write. Um, I guess I didn't know how often, but I guess I was like, you're going to show up now every week. And I probably, and during that time, I think I was starting to scribble down like ideas of what I might want to write about. So I was feeling excited, like I think I have something to write about. But I didn't know exactly what. I think another thing is that I thought I needed a niche because I had been in sort of like the Instagram world before, and it's all about niches. Like, you know, you go on your grid, people need to know what you are about straight away so that they can follow
Yeah.
you. And I'm like, that turns my creativity off. I am someone who has many interests. And so I was just like, let's just explore it on Substack and see what happens. And so, but I had so lots of ideas and I gave myself permission, like, okay, we're not going to niche down. And so that was cool. And I think the sharing of the journey was, I've always loved those kind of like following someone from the start. I think that's probably why I started in April on Substack. I thought something big was going to happen. And this is before I knew what was happening with my mum. Something big's going to happen. I'm going to document it. And then, you know, life throws you a curveball and everything went quiet. And then when I was ready to kind of um, spend some more time on what I enjoy and what I like, it was kind of like the return to the writing and committing to showing up and not overthinking it, I think, and just being like, hey, let's just come along for the ride. I don't feel that I'm like a Substack guru. I'm more like, okay, this is what I tried. Um, what have you tried? I think there's a couple of things that I found out about myself over the past, even before Substack, is that I love to like help people not feel like they're alone, and I think that sort of dictates some of my writing. It's like if you feel like this, I felt it too. That's an important part. It makes me like that makes me want to write. The other thing is I I love to share things to make people's lives easier. And I think that's why sometimes I have like, have you seen this resource? Have you seen this? It's really cool, you know, that sort of thing. So that's kind of been a culmination of like all the things I just love, you know, and I could do it on Substack, which is fabulous. And there's been like reciprocal, you know, people commenting back, which was lovely because sometimes when I have that desire of like, I want you to feel like you're less alone and I want to share things that are helpful. If you don't get anything back, it feels I don't know if I guess I love to help people. So if I don't know if I'm helping people, it just feels a little bit like, oh, um,
Yeah, you're like in that
yeah,
place of wanting that a little bit about like healthy validation and catharsis. And like you mentioned in the beginning, like building community and like, finding people and
yeah,
connecting and all of that. And so, yeah, it's like, it's so wonderful to hear about like how the way you've shown up on Substack and really created this place has come from your authentic interests and really like what you want
yeah,
to do in the world, it sounds like.
absolutely. And I think that it, I, I started off thinking I could do a lot more. Like I thought I was going to do 5 tips, like 5 things to find on Fridays, and I was going to write an essay on another day. And then I quickly found out that that just doesn't work for my lifestyle. I was very, very mindful of creating a kind of a cadence, which I didn't know at the time, but just making it like happy and joyful. And if there was any kind of like squeezing of like you need to do this, I was like, no, I don't need to do this. And I think one thing that I would say to like new people is like you get to make the rules, especially when no one is paying you. I think we forget that. I think, you know, if you've been working for a long time, you're used to like a boss telling you um sorry a boss telling you what to do, and so you kind of put that on yourself, and it's like, no, you don't need to do that. You can write every week, every 2 weeks, once a month, write what feels right for you. Like I so that's kind of where I came from. I thought I was going to do something and then I decided no, that doesn't feel right for me. It feels too much. I I want to live my life in a happy way with my family, and I want to show up here in a happy way. If it starts feeling forceful, I think it shows in your writing, to be honest. It shows in my writing, I should say. So I've just been mindful of that. So that means that if there are times where I will, kind of not go on notes so much, or um, I might be a little bit late because I'm not feeling like in a good headspace when usually I publish, I will delay it a couple of days. I give myself that permission. And I think we can do that on Substack. I know that a lot of people think that it's like it's not good if we don't do it a certain way, but I think that this is your place to make it how you want to make it. You don't need to kind of conform to what you think you need to do. Uh, so that's how I think it's been sustainable for me all this time for 9 months. I've been showing up consistently. And I think that you get more ideas, more creativity when you do show up in that way, when it's not sort of forced, like I need to pump out this thing. So what am I going to write about? I know people who do that, like there are journalists who are really, really good at writing amazing pieces using that schedule. I'm just not one of them. And I found that out about myself quite early. And so I was constantly tweaking my about page, my welcome email. I was constantly tweaking it at the beginning because I changed. I decided, no, I'm not going to do that in that frequency. And I think allowing yourself to do that, especially when, as I say, you're not paid, especially when you have a few subscribers. I think that was one of my huge breakthroughs on Substack was going, okay, so I've got 27 subscribers. I can change my mind about how I do things. I can experiment. I can do whatever I want. So that was a huge turning point because I tend to be a huge planner, meaning I need to figure out how I'm going to do this. How's this going to lay out? What are going to be all the topics I'm going to do? This on this week, this on that week, blah, blah, blah. That's usually my approach to things. Like, give me the huge plan and then I'm going to go. The problem with doing it that way for me is that I spend so much time planning that nothing comes out the other end. And I put a lot of pressure on myself to get it right. I do a lot of research, seeing how everyone's doing. What do I want to do? Lots of writing. I mean, there's notebooks full of heaps of ideas. And then nothing comes out the end of it because it's just too much of this huge like pressure cooker of ideas and doing it perfectly and showing up in a certain way that nothing ends up coming out the other end. So I took that away completely and I was like, who knows what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to show up in a way that feels good. I was spending a lot of time on notes, reading other people's things, and it was so fun. I was like, if I could get paid for just chatting with people all day, this would be amazing. And in fact, I kind of had an opportunity to do that with Claire Venus. I'm helping her with Sparkle and Substack with some of her community stuff while she was away on holiday. And I'm like, can I
Oh,
just say, wouldn't it be amazing if I could be paid to just chat with people? And so things can happen like that, I enjoy what I do on Substack, and I think people should enjoy what they do. If that means showing up like doing interviews, if that feels great and expansive for you, then like do that. But it doesn't mean that you have to do a video, you have to do audio things, you have to show up on notes all the time. You don't have to do, I know some people who don't like the
mhm.
engagement side of it. It's like not doesn't feel good for them, but they do lots of research and
Yeah.
very in-depth posts. And so I think there's a space and a way to show up for everybody. So just lean into that a bit more.
Yeah. Oh, that was so inspiring. And it's the joy you have for what you do on Substack is so clear and palpable through the screen. And just again, the way that you have carved out a space for your authentic self and found a home and people to connect with, like Claire and others through that. and then the way that you have helped others find their authentic selves by being yours. And so I've mentioned, you mentioned Substack Diaries, and I mentioned Find Your Tribe earlier. Tell people who don't know what that is, and we'll link it, of course.
Yeah.
Like, what is Find Your Tribe? What are Substack Diaries?
So, Find Your Tribe was a beautiful sort of gift that I came up with when I had taken a little bit of time away from Substack in terms of, being on there so much. And through that kind of time away and contemplating, and it kind of came out at the end. And it was really nice because it showed me that you don't have to be on all the time, as in um, pumping out notes or whatever in order to um, get these nuggets. I think sometimes stepping away is a really great gift to yourself and to your readers, because then you come back and you have these gems like Find Your Tribe. So Find Your Tribe is basically I got the idea from Sarah Fay. So she was, as I said, one of the people that I joined, I think, a month into when I showed up consistently. And she has these office parties where people get to talk to each other and meet with each other. And that was probably one of my first ways that I got people to my publication. I think I got like 20 to 30 subscribers through doing like participating in that, right? And I was like, and I know that was so that she did that, and I was like, I've seen a lot of people saying, how am I going to be found? I I'm not growing. Um, I was reading all of this on notes, and my heart went out to them, and I knew how that felt. Like as I said, I was on 7 subscribers for 8 months. I was, 20 on 27, got 20 subscribers, I think, at one point. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But like, how do I grow? I just didn't know. And so I thought, wouldn't it be great if we had a regular space where people could just sort of show up, introduce their Substack, and find other people who are like-minded. And so that's where it was kind of born. And I was blown away at how people embraced that idea. I don't think at that time I didn't know if I would definitely do it every month. I was just trying out the idea. And I think I saw, like, because I went on to Claire's sort of one of her workshops, and she was talking about the idea of maybe doing something semi regularly. And I thought, oh, that might be a cool idea to just do it, regularly, so new people can come in, introduce themselves. I will say that in terms of like mindset and everything. So when you do go to Find Your Tribe, which is where you just introduce yourself, introduce your Substack, and we have a little community question.
Yeah, and just to give everyone a sort of everyone's not on Substack. Like we
Yes,
basically like, post an essay like I do or like Mika does, and so she'll give the instructions of like here's the week, like and in the comments you do like your Substack handle, a little bit about you, and the kind of like monthly question, just to give everyone sort of
exactly.
yeah, continue.
Yes. So that is the way that it's run, and it's every month on the second Friday, which is my Friday, so maybe Thursday for other people. And the idea is that you come in, introduce yourself in the comments. But I think the mindset that you want to go into it, which I think is really important, isn't like, I hope lots of people find me. I hope I get 20 subscribers from this. I don't think that is the right way to approach it, because you'll just be disappointed and you won't show up next month. So what you want to do is you want to come in and you want to be like, here I am, blah, blah, blah. And then just go into the comments and start chatting with people and just be like, oh my goodness, I like that. That resonated with me. Go on to people's Substacks, read their work, subscribe to them, and just be like, manage your expectations. I think with everything on Substack, it's like manage your expectations, go in there and just have a good time, meet one or two really, really cool people and connect with them and go on with that kind of expectation. I've had people who ended up collaborating, meeting through their collaborating, and then doing something like us and having like an interview. I'm like, how cool is that? So it's like, it's an
Yeah.
opportunity
I
where
actually
you
met
feel,
sorry, I met Kelsey Abbott through Find Your Tribe, and she came
lovely.
on a few weeks ago. So we literally met.
Oh,
Yeah, I love her.
amazing. So yeah, things like that, you can find people to collaborate with. Just if you think to yourself, I'm going to find two cool people this month, that's a great way to kind of approach Find Your Tribe. And then, yeah, so that's Find Your Tribe. I love it.
And can I ask you, like,
Mhm.
also amazing, but just to give people a sense of like, the thing I think is so cool about your journey is that you didn't wait until you had like a million followers, subscribers to start doing these things and like helping people grow. Like, do you remember approximately like not for like comparison, just a physical sense of like your journey, like how many subscribers you had when you started Find Your Tribe, like around what number it
Yeah.
was?
Ooh, I think you do need to have a little bit because I've seen people get the idea. I've seen quite a few people get the idea, and I'm happy for people to because I got the idea from Sarah Faye, and I
Yeah.
always credit her. Um, and I I think you do need a big core group.
What
I'm
was
trying
that?
to
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Go ahead.
So I would say if it was around, I think it was around January. So by that point, I'm thinking I might have been around the 300, 250, 300, 280.
Yeah, and
Yes,
to
I
give people
think
some
around
context
there.
too, with that jump, that was January, February, and you had that really big bump of growth from December to January because December
Yes,
you still had like 20, 30,
yes,
right?
that's
So
right.
yeah, I just want to like not to make this about the numbers, but I think it's just like to show people it's not like this thing we put it up in our heads as, like it worked and had that core thing started there. But it wasn't like you were thinking, oh, I'm going to wait until I hit this big thing and do it. Like it just kind of happened organically, right?
Yes, and I think by that point, I had been doing a few of I have some sort of chats going as well. I have an accountability chat for my subscribers, and I have so Substack accountability where we share our intentions for the week. We also have a light up thread where people say things that have gone well this week. And so I knew that I was getting a little bit of traction on there. I was getting about 20 people a week, 20, 30 people a week. So I knew there were people who were engaged. Um, and so doing Find Your Tribe wasn't a huge leap from there because I was already getting a little bit of traction in the chats as well. And I have done and so for those people who don't know what chats are, so in the app, you can create a chat for your publication for your subscribers, and you can have little weekly things, monthly things, or whatever, and it's a separate place from your publication. And so it's definitely people who have the app who do it. So if you have a huge subscribers who are from an email import, they may not have got the app. They may not know about that
Yeah,
yet.
I love that you're sharing this because honestly, I think a lot of people who just, get the email in their inbox and then kind of like that's the only engagement, don't know a lot about Substack. Like some people ask me all the time, like, what is Substack? And so I do have a couple of friends who have they're very cute. They've made Substack accounts to be able to comment on my newsletter. Like
Oh, I love that.
my best friend Mark, literally, like in their about thing, it says, I'm here to comment on Alexa's stuff.
I love that. That is so cute.
Yeah, it's so cute. And so I think that like as much as we love everybody who's involved, and I try to remember to myself, like they are people I never talk to, I never see who are getting my newsletters. Like, um,
Yes.
I followed Ask Polly by Heather Haverleski for years. And I wasn't on something, I was just like in her universe, and now I comment and stuff. So yeah, I think that's a
Yes.
great distinction of people who are like just getting the emails and loving that and then people who are writers who are also subscribing. And then there are people who are not writing, but they're just very in the community on Substack.
Yes.
So I think this is a really great way to kind of like teach people about the kind of the multiverse.
Yes. And I think another thing to point out is that remember, I had time. So there are a lot of people on Substack that are doing caregiving, full-time job, part-time job, side hustle, all these sort of things. So when I first started showing up consistently, I actually had time. As I said, things had settled down with my mother. I was doing sort of manageable freelance work. So I actually had time to just indulge in the app, and notes came around that time, so I was experimenting with notes and just chatting with people, and I was having this great time. And so I think at that time you kind of, and I've never really thought about this before, but if you are on Notes, which is kind of the social media of Substack, and you've got the app, you get
Yeah.
to start seeing people who might show up on notes. And as you're having conversation with them, they're probably going to be the ones who are going to be jumping on your chat thread if you guys are subscribed, if they've subscribed to you. And they're probably going to be the ones who get involved in Find Your Tribe. So I think it is sort of in terms of community building, because I get asked that a lot, and it's a tricky thing to answer because it's not something I've really thought a lot about. It's something that I value, but
Yeah.
I don't have a strategy for it really. It's just kind of
Yeah.
evolved.
And also like, yeah, I think there's all these things. And it's so funny. I wish people could like see my questions document because there's like a way in which you've answered like almost all of my questions in natural
Oh,
conversations. I love. But I think that yeah, there's this thread of like me kind of thinking, oh, how'd you do that? And you're like, I kind of just did it. And I feel like there's just like there's this very like natural, like authentic flow of just like I think your journey is this beautiful example of just like when you're doing what you love and you're really trying to help people and you just kind of naturally gravitate. And so with community building, though, I do have a question around it. Like,
yes.
what is the like role of authenticity in creating a safe space for yourself and the other writers? Because you are like facilitating all these places now. You have Find Your Tribe, like I think all writers, I do feel a certain responsibility of the comment section of all my posts. Like you just kind of feel this is my page, and like I wouldn't want somebody to like at a party. I wouldn't want someone to be me and my friends at a party. So
Yeah.
like I know that you care about creating a safe space from everything you talked about with helping people and nurturing them. And like, yeah, what role does authenticity play for you in that cultivation?
Yeah. Hmm. Um, I think I think a lot of it starts with honesty. For me, I've never been one who's kind of like, look at me, I'm doing something really great. You should do it too. I'm more like, oh my goodness, I was struggling. This really helped me. It may help you too. And so I think that has perhaps drawn people in. I guess it's been lucky because this is how I want to write, and it's resonated. Like it's brought the right type of people in. Struggle with
Yeah.
the same thing. Do
Right.
you know
And
what
so
I mean? So
those people are kind of like minded and they're the kinds of people that you
yeah,
almost don't have to like police or regulate because they are so similar to your energy.
yes,
Like
definitely.
almost like modeling the behaviors that you want
Yes.
for people. And you do have that like not disclaimer, but like there's a sentence by your tribe where you're talking about like kindness and how to treat people and
Yeah.
you're modeling that.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that because I hadn't really thought about that. I it's genuinely what just comes out. And so I think if that's a turn off for people, then it's like, yay. So I do have people who are quite who lean into that side of their softer side. And therefore I haven't had to moderate any negative comments. Um, I haven't had to moderate anyone, messaging me and saying anything, nasty. And I definitely know that sometimes that happens. I won't sugarcoat coat it. I know that I've heard of it, and it's very, very, very sad because it's definitely people are giving part of themselves to the readers and happily so. And so for someone to give negativity back, like, hurt people, right? So I feel very sad for them. I actually feel sad for people who feel really sad about Substack, to be honest. I like I know that they want so much for their writing and for their space, and they just feel lost. And I know what that feels like. And I just want to just give them a hug and be like, okay, let's just sort of ditch all the expectations for let's just sort of lean into what feels good and show up the way that feels good for you and just chat with like there's so many nice people on Substack. And that's why I was just like immediately like, oh my goodness, this place is amazing because I somehow luckily found some really thoughtful people. You only need one or two, honestly, to be honest, to just keep you going for the first little while as you're building your list. You only need honestly one or two while you're starting to just be like positive, to be like, okay, I think I'm doing okay. um yeah, I am lucky that I think I do attract people who are searching are trying to overcome the overthinking, which is one of the things you kind of touched upon in your questions.
Yeah.
Um, the overthinking is a big thing. I could talk about that.
Yeah, no, and
Oh my
I
goodness.
yeah, I've seen the way on your journey it shows up. And like again, like that was a question I had about authenticity overthinking, but I think you answered it in so many ways of like just letting yourself be a beginner, letting yourself try. Like, and some of the overthinking authenticity is like letting yourself overthink and then just tossing it away. And also knowing
Yes.
when to dig in. Like sometimes pull out your laptop while your husband's sleeping and like get into it. And sometimes like don't post it. And oh yeah, we could talk about so many things for so much time. And I'm so like, I feel like I have like a whole new like document of questions, but uh
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I have some surprise questions before we wrap
Oh,
up.
okay.
I
Hmm.
know everyone's like, what? There wasn't on the Google Doc, like my rapid fire.
Hmm.
I stole that from Brene Brown, her
Okay.
podcast. So I love. Um, and I had a question to ask you before. Oh, I did. I remember. This is not rapid fire. This is like a question you can think about.
Okay.
So now it's August. You're 9 months into Substack journey, technically a little longer. It started
Yeah.
in April, and you've quit your job a year ago. Like now that you have that hindsight and you're thinking about, you knew something was missing, you knew something was like coming, but you didn't know what. Do you think it was Substack?
I think when I was looking at the questions, I was like, huh, it's definitely answers the whole make room for something new. I still don't know. I think there are definitely little nuggets that I'm getting right now that is leading me more to my art side
Mm-hmm.
and exploring that. Um, so I feel like Substack is my happy, happy place that could perhaps be the platform for something else because there have been a few things that have been on my heart for a long time, and namely a group for ADHD women. I was diagnosed about over a year ago, and late diagnosis, and that's the whole overthinking thing. Always thinking, I need to be more. I need to, that is just so unhealthy, and is something that I'm working through now. Is just to be
Uh,
like let's stop with the striving. Let's stop with the
yeah.
like not being okay right now.
And I'm so
Yeah.
glad you mentioned that. And I can't wait for that group for women and also to educate people who don't know, because I think that people hear the word ADHD and they're not aware of like diagnoses for sure. And I think about kids, a lot of energy,
Yeah.
right? But you don't think about the striving, the more, the overthinking. And so I think that, women with ADHD versus men with ADHD late in life, not late in life, later than like being 10 years old.
Yes.
Um, I think that's a really important thing to highlight, and I'm so glad you shared
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I think that that might be something, but I think what I'm doing is my typical over planning, overthinking. Sometimes I need something to drop on my lap or a huge like, hey, you got to do this, in order for me to unravel that part of myself that is kind of just like tinkering away. So that's still in the works. Um, so perhaps it's on the journey. I don't know. It's been a fun kind of like fun way of exploring.
Yeah, it
Um,
sounds like
yeah,
Substack is like, and also maybe there is no like answer. Like maybe it's just the thing that helped you continue to unraveling and like a platform in your happy place and just a place that got you like into that fertile, generative
yeah.
space. So I
And
love.
there's so much benefit into writing out your feelings because you
Mhm.
get to know yourself more. And
Yeah.
so I would recommend, even if you don't publish any of your work, I would recommend writing to figure out where you are and what you want to do, and giving yourself grace and generosity and stuff like that. I think we're used to hearing that kind of like schoolmaster voice, and I think our writing voice is just so much more generous and forgiving and open. And so that's why I think this journey has been so amazing, because it's allowed me to and given myself permission to do that. But it's like you don't need to know all the answers straight away. I didn't know how the Substack was going to turn out when I first started. So
Yeah. I love that, and I can so relate. My very first line, my very first essay was, I wanted to wait until I was ready, but I know that's how I meant to start this journey. And I was just like, we got to do it immediately. And I think my first comment ever was Donna, with who I know you know.
Mm.
She was so kind and very much still a great friend and one of my early cheerleaders. And I love that kind of energy. And
Yeah.
I've loved this conversation. And I'm so very grateful to be in community on Substack, but also like in the real world. We're not in the real world on Substack, but like I love like the connections that come out of that. And it's always
Yeah.
just so cool to like be face to face people that you know so well through your screen and the words. And I'm always so grateful for these kinds of like connection, community building spaces. So thank you for all that you're creating and for coming on over to Wild Cozy Free.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It was great, and I'm glad that we are able to make it work. And it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. And I've definitely got some courage now to perhaps show up on video for maybe a
Yes,
small group of my friends, because
I
I there
love
are
it.
certainly, yeah, there's
Uh,
certainly things that I love to talk about, and I'm like, maybe a little cozy chat with some of my friends might be
Ooh,
good,
fun.
So
I like
yeah,
that.
it's
I like to pick some ideas
rip
too.
the band-aid.
Yes. All right. Before we go, I'm gonna ask you some
Mhm.
rapid fires. And rapid fire, not like don't talk really fast. You have your time, but just kind of first thing comes to mind, like kind of like like popcorn kind of thing.
Okay.
Sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So your favorite piece of advice about Substack and your least favorite.
Oh, I think my favorite would be just show up in a way that feels joyful for you and sustainable. Um, so the least is, I guess, focus on the metrics. And that could be any metric. That could be your subscriber, your open rate, your what else are there? How many people come to your page, your follower. I'm like,
Right.
ignore it. Just yeah,
No.
so don't think about growing fast or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, favorite thing about Substack itself, and one thing you would change if you could.
Okay, so my favorite thing by far is just like communicating with so many wise, amazing, thoughtful people. That's been so great. I love that. People are just willing to be so open with their generosity and their comments. It's just so great. I love that. And what was the other question? The what I
One thing you would change. Yeah. Like if we like
uh
had one of the Substack engineers in here and it was like, we're gonna take some advice or like things writers want us to do, or yeah.
yes. Um oh, it's so good. Uh I think what I would change is it controversial? I think the ticks.
The
I
text.
think the ticks, sorry, it's my
Oh,
Kiwi accent.
oh,
Ticks. The
ticks.
ticks, like the orange tick. So for those who don't know, when you reach 100 paid subscribers, you get a little tick on your
Mm,
name, or when you reach a certain amount, you get a purple one or filled in one. And I don't know. I feel like it makes people feel like they're suddenly an expert, or it's like I'm not there. It's like it's something to strive for that makes you feel like, oh, I haven't quite got there yet. Obviously, I take nothing away from those who have it, because they would have
right.
worked hard and
Yeah.
built a community and all of that. But I think I guess I'm just personally thinking about it. If I ever got it, I would hate that to be a separation from me and someone who's just starting, and to feel like I've got it together or I'm better than them or anything like that. I just think if there's a way to like turn that off so we don't get to put it next to our name, I think that would be really good, because I really do feel like I'm just like everyone else,
Yeah.
and I've been where they've been, and I don't like the idea of someone feeling bad, So I think
Mhm.
that, yeah, but I do, as I say, acknowledge all the hard work that other people have gone
Oh
through,
no,
but
of
that
course. And yeah, maybe make it optional. Turn it on and off.
optional.
There you
Yeah.
go. I love that. Okay. And sorry for that. I love the pronunciation, the ticks and the tags and all
Yeah.
that. So funny. Okay. Favorite piece you've read in the last week? Like an essay or
Oh,
something.
Mm. Okay, so I have a friend called Benny. I'm gonna call him out, like shout him out right here. So Benny was a really big supporter at the beginning, and he's been on quite a bit of a journey leaving his job, and he's starting back up again after not writing in a while, and he is writing some lovely, lovely pieces, and I'm enjoying his stuff. He's vulnerable, he's open, he doesn't know what's happening, he's dealing with the same things that I dealt with, which is kind of like worth, being productive in the world, being a citizen, which earns money, all of those things, and actually not knowing what's happening next. I really relate to that, and he's sharing that openly. And so I would check out Benny's work. So just look up Benny. There's not many Bennies up there.
Yeah, and I'll
B-E-N-Y.
I'll get it from you so we can
Yeah.
link it. Don't worry. We will get link.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yes.
loving, I'm loving that.
I love that. And you kind of already answered. I was going to ask you a writer you wish people knew more about, but Benny seems like who you want to stick with. Any other people that you wish people knew more
Oh my
about?
goodness.
Top of your head.
Oh, um, oh gosh, this is hard.
I
I,
know.
I guess I guess in terms of, because I'm a real advocate for new people starting Substack,
Yeah.
but I would check out Claire Venus, and I say that because she has so much information, and she approaches things. She's definitely is on the same page as me, which is joyful and sustainable growth. I 100% believe that, because I'm like a very like huge proponent of like protect the space, don't put anything in here that's going to make you feel like you can't show up, or you feel pressured to show up, or you feel like you've got comparison, all of those things. Because honestly, I've been there, and you don't want to write because you're like, oh, I'm just like, no one's commenting, blah, blah, blah. I'm obviously doing something wrong. And I think that we need to move away from that sort of narrative and just be kind of like, okay, what do I enjoy? I'm gonna write a poem. I like a poem. Or I love my photography. I'm just gonna do a photography
Um,
rundown. It's just like
that's so
really
it's so funny you
being
say that because I literally have like randomly written a poem and a photo essay but at different times. I'm like,
oh,
that. So
is
it's
this a sign?
you gotta do it. It's so fun. I actually got
Yes.
the poem idea. Well, people write poems, but Joy Sullivan, who I really like on Substack, who recently wrote a book called Fucking Going West, talks about like tiny tenders and the idea of like making the smallest thing a poem. And I saw this smashed raw carrot back in New York on the sidewalk. And I was just like, huh, and I ended up writing about like, did a toddler drop it? Or is there like a bunny hopping around? And I love that idea of just like doing it for yourself. And I didn't do it, yeah, for my numbers or whatever. I was like, I just kind of like it. I'm going to post it. So I love that. And
Yeah.
I definitely have been in the ether and like known about Claire for a while. And I know what the summit she's doing right now. And so I
Yes.
think she's a great person to shout out for sure. And we also remember too, like, there are different sects of Substack. So like,
Mm,
we know Claire very well. I don't know her, but I know of her. But some people just aren't in the same like pockets and could be totally new to Claire. So shout out to
yes.
Claire and to
Shout out
Benny.
to Claire. And I
Yeah.
think I think what you point out about that sort of the carrot thing is kind of a key thing. It's like you were fully present, you're feeling great. So think about those times where you felt really great, fully present, really thinking about things, and you just and then the poetry sort of just flowed out of you, right? I think that's kind of the energy that you want to be bringing into Substack, like what makes you feel fully present, really great. For me, it's chatting with people. I love that. For
Love it.
someone else, it might be like, oh my goodness, I love posting poetry or photos or whatever thing. So I
I love
think it's just sort of like leaning into that. Hmm.
I love it. All right, my last question. This is from my authenticity workbook that I created Authentic by Alexa. So it's, years from now or right around the corner, you've made it. They're making the Mika action figure Barbie American Girl doll, making a doll of you. And they're like, okay, what are this doll's must-have accessories? Like, what does the doll have to have in the box?
Okay. She has her laptop or iPad or phone, something to write with, to communicate with the outer world. So something, it's like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think a passport, because she loves to travel.
Ooh, okay.
She loves to see people and make memories. And uh, let's see, what other things? Oh, um, like stretchy pants because she loves
Yeah.
to eat.
Yes, we love
Loves
stretchy
to eat.
pants.
Yeah, so it
Absolutely.
means like I'm gonna go out there, we're gonna have a good time, we're gonna eat, we're gonna make memories, we're gonna be with people who you love, and then a notebook and pen so that you
I
can just jot
love it.
everything down.
I love it. Totally unplanned, but like, what are we eating? Where are we going? Like,
Oh my
bring the
goodness.
food right now and like place you love right now.
Mm. I love anything authentic. So obviously I love Japanese. I'm half Japanese. So I love Japanese food, but unfortunately, because my mum is a good cook, it's hard to
Right,
compare.
when you have
So
the authentic stuff, you're like ruined for eating out. Yeah.
ruined for eating out. So I would say anything Korean or Turkish or
Yeah.
Italian, Thai, Vietnamese, and then being with people I love and probably a new place, experience it. That is my trifecta. I've realized last year, I realized I was like getting this like super joyful feeling. I was like, oh my goodness, what are the things? Being with people I love, eating food and making new memories. I'm like, I'm done. I'm in my happy place. So anything,
I love
any
it.
good authentic food
I love it. So if I
authentic
like
food.
say to you, Mika, you've won the lottery, you've won the travel, and I'm gonna send you and five of your favorite book writers to a new place to make memories, like where do you want to go? Top of your head.
Oh, somewhere near water, let's say Rarotonga. So Rarotonga, so Cook Islands, that's near us. It's probably our Bahamas or um, you know, Caribbean. So in the Pacific Islands, there's a place called the Cook Islands or Rarotonga, and it's a small little place that you can get around in like a moped in a day, and it's got beautiful seas, beautiful food, snorkeling. We're going to go paddleboarding. We've got a little place on the literally on the sand, and we're just going to talk and chat into late into the night, and then we're
Oh,
going to sunbathe and read books during the day.
I'll see you there. I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me twice. I've never also like I love hearing of a new it's Rarotonga.
Rarotonga. Yep, I'm
Rarotonga. Okay,
probably
you
saying
will yes, you
Rarotonga.
will email me the right spellings. I will not mess it
Yeah.
up. Love it, Rarotonga. Yeah. Okay, great. I'll see you there. I'll bring the pasta. That sounds
Yes.
lovely.
Yes. Yes.
Ah, I love it. I am starving. Talking about
I
food.
know.
I'm like, let's go eat something.
Go have a smoothie.
Yes. Oh, thank you again for this hour, Meek. I can't tell you how much I love this conversation, getting to know you more. It's just above and beyond my expectations. So already high because you're so wonderful and just really, really, really grateful. So thank you again.
Anytime, anytime. We can di deep dive into any topic in the future.
Yes.
So welcome to come back to,
Ah,
I'll be happy to come back.
open invitation,
Yeah.
always.
Thank
Oh,
you so, so much. And
oh,
thanks for listening, everybody.
yes.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
Oh, thank you again. Yeah.